I'm Mike Nelson. I'm from brainworks.studio. We do a lot of marketing currently for Hudson River. I think we do mainly all of your marketing right now. I've also done a few training sessions with you guys in the past. So I was fortunate enough to be asked back to do some more, and we're going to be doing just some really really call center training. It's going to be phone skills. I'm a big psychology guy, so most of what I teach is rooted in psychology somewhere. It's not just opinion, it's all based on the way people actually work. So we'll be covering some of that stuff as well. We won't get too deep. I'm not going to ask you to tell me about your mother or father or any of that stuff, but we will talk about basic human behavior and the underlying structure and some of those things. So pretty cool stuff. I'll try to be fun and engaging as much as possible, but no promises. So, but I know some of you, I don't know all of you, so if we'll just everybody go around the room, just tell me who you are and just tell me real quick what you do so I can just understand.
Okay, my name is Sierra. I'm in the Member Service Center upstairs, the deposit side.
And Member Service Center, what do you do?
It's a call center, basically.
Okay. So you field phone calls from members
Yes.
coming in?
Yep, for all the branches.
Okay. And what do you typically talk with them about?
It depends, lots of things. Travel for debit cards, any basic transactions, any questions on their accounts or online banking, anything like that.
Okay. And they're always happy to talk to you?
No, not usually.
Not usually.
No, it's usually a problem that they're calling.
Okay. All right. So they're not calling you because everything's great and they just want to tell you good job and keep it up.
Not
All right.
usually.
All right. Perfect. You, sir?
I'm Zach. I work in the same department, do the same type of work.
Okay.
And like she said, they're usually not too happy. Not everybody's mad though.
Sure.
A lot of people get a lot of just mainly balance questions, but when they aren't happy, it's fun.
Okay. And I should have. I'm going to ask. I'll ask everybody. But what's your biggest challenge that you see when dealing with people on the phone?
Most people are just angry because they don't understand what's going on, and once you explain it to them, they're fine.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's, especially with online banking, we get a lot of it. They don't know where to go on the website, which I know we are working on that. But most of it's just once you explain it to them, they're fine.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing, I think.
And Zach, for you, biggest challenge?
I would just say probably the same thing. Like they're calling because they really just don't know. Like there's a charge on their account and they don't understand why, or they don't understand how courtesy pay works, or why they're getting all these fees or something like that. It's all dependent on the situation really, but it mainly would be they don't quite understand what's going on in their account.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm Sherry, and I work in the lending department. We mostly take all the loan calls if they have questions for payments or loan applications, if they have rate questions, things like that. And the most challenging is probably just educating people, making them understand, maybe why their credit score wasn't what they thought it was, or, what they could do to better themselves. And we still get angry people too, when if it's late or something, got mixed up on the account. But I would say probably educating members is the hardest.
Okay. Good.
My name is Erica. I too work in the Loan Service Center, and I do the same thing that Sherry does. I also do home loans and other things. And it's the education piece. I agree. It's knowing who's open to listening and trying to catch their attention, and they want to know, again, if we're explaining about their credit, they want to know what they can do to improve, and then they don't want to know once you start explaining to them. So it's kind of difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm in the loan center as well. I'm Burl. Most of my job is mortgages, refis, purchase mortgages, and I do fill in and help out on the consumer side. And again, it is making the members or applicant understand why they were declined. They don't seem to understand what our debt ratio is and like that. So.
Okay. Perfect.
I'm Missy. I am the loan lending manager. I manage all the lending girls, and I do basically all the consumer lending, just help out if they need something. And my biggest challenge, I think, is not being able to see the member when you communicate something with them, because you're basically going off of their voice. You can't see any nonverbal body language.
Okay.
So for me, that's the hardest thing.
Okay.
My name's Heather. I work in the lending center as well. I definitely agree with helping members understand a lot of different things. Sometimes even just helping them understand what we need and why we need it. and all of that, and also feeling like they're rushed a lot. So they're usually calling you when they're in the car driving
Sure.
and not always, you know, super receptive, wanting everything to happen right away,
Mhm.
you know, so.
Okay.
My name is Jess. I work in the Member Service Center deposit side. I do the same thing as anybody answer calls, you know, happy members, sad members, and angry members.
Okay.
And everywhere in between. I think the hardest thing might be, for me, is when somebody's irrational and they don't want to hear what you have to say,
Mhm.
even once you give them an answer, dealing with them just wanting to lash out at somebody. Sometimes you're that person.
Sometimes you're the lucky person.
Yes.
Okay.
And you just go, all right, thank you. Good day. Please don't call back.
Please, right. Okay. Awesome.
My name is Nikki. I am the supervisor of the Member Service Center. Again, I do everything that these guys do, and I get the escalation, like Missy, of the not so happy people. I think the hardest part, like they said, is the education. Some people
Mhm.
want to know what they can do to help themselves, and then there's times where people just don't. They just want you to fix everything and don't want to,
Sure.
you know, figure out how to help themselves, I guess, for lack of better.
Okay. Perfect. And your escalation process is from one person up to you and then over to you? Is that kind of how that
No,
goes,
like,
or is
we're
that?
completely separate departments. Now,
Oh,
we used to
okay.
work as a whole, now we've separated into the deposit side and then the lending side.
Okay.
So now I just strictly am doing the lending side, so if they have someone that's very, upset about a decline, most of the time the girls can handle themselves with the decline piece, but
Mhm.
we do have some angry members that want more, you know, explanation or, you know.
We just need to speak with the next
Yeah,
higher up.
they just wanna speak with the next higher up, so
Mhm.
I get to be
We're just
that
gonna tell them the
person.
same thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
tell them the
No,
same
you
thing.
know, it's an interesting thing, but it's actually,
Who tells them?
it really, it's, I don't wanna say that, like, credibility is not the right word, but it makes them feel more important.
Yeah.
Because you have now
Went to
shuffled
the
them
next
up a
level,
level,
we're telling
right,
them that.
you know?
Right.
So it's an interesting thing that happens, but we actually do it intentionally in a lot of situations, not just customer service, but we'll do it in sales, we'll do it in management, where we offer an escalation because, so that the person that's coming through that process feels like they're really being taken care of, because someone that doesn't normally deal with this situation is now being asked because you're so special. We all wanna feel so unique and so special, right? Every one of us, if I could give you a list that's miles long of all the crazy things that we do to feel unique and feel special. So it's pretty interesting. And we all know what everyone's favorite subject is, right? Themselves, right? That's because you've been through my training too, right? So it is. So I'll tell you, when it comes to dealing with other people, the best lesson you can understand, and we could probably end the training after I say this, right, is they are their favorite subject, right? So if you can continually be talking about their favorite subject, you're going to get points just from doing that. So it's it doesn't matter if you're at a luncheon or a family barbecue. If you're ever in trouble in small talk, just get the other person talking about themselves, and they will love you for it. It's always been something that I used in, like, networking, because now at this point I've been doing it for so long, I love it. But when I first started getting out into the public and having that talk to other people, you know, we grow up, and what do our parents tell us as we're growing up as kids not to do?
Talk to strangers.
Don't talk to strangers, right? And then you get to be an adult and you have to talk to strangers all the time. And so I had this big problem with it, and then I learned really quickly that if I just got other people talking about themselves, I didn't have to say anything. And then I would say nothing, and I would walk away from a conversation, and they'd be like, oh, that Mike, he is a nice guy, huh? Wow, what a charmer. And I didn't say anything the whole time. I just sat there, yep, and yep, oh, and oh, yes, no, that's great, tell me more, right? And just stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, what a nice person, you know, I'm not, you know, but they thought I was, so. All right, so we're gonna go through a bunch of dialogue today. We're gonna start with process, all right? So, when I say process, what do you think? What do you think about? With relations to your job, when I say process, what do you think of?
The certain processes we all go through
Okay.
to when you deal with someone.
Okay? The way you do things, right? And so, let me ask you this question. Do you all have the same process for when you're dealing with customers?
Similar.
But you don't have a written down,
No.
Yeah.
God, no, God, no.
No script, no.
So here's what's funny. So when we think about scripts, right, we think I say this, they say that, then I say this, and then I say it, and that's impossible to do, right? I remember when I was a young sales guy, and they would always try to ram scripts down my throat, and I'd be like, that makes no sense, because what do they do when they go off script? And then I'm like, excuse me, I have to hang up now. You have messed this whole thing up for me, right? So we can't do that. So yeah, scripts, I agree with you, but process though is what? Kind of, it's the way that you do things. What does process do for you?
Kind of a guideline.
It's a guideline, right? So when we,
Oh, nice marker.
Try erasing.
I'm trying to think of a joke, but I'm coming up with nothing right now about the marker, so we'll just let it go. So process, right? There's steps to a process. Right? So when I have a process like this, what does it do for me? What does it tell me?
It keeps you organized.
Keeps you organized. When I see this, I think it's a structure, right? And the big thing about structure is that it makes everything easy. Because when I have a process, when I have structure, if I'm here, right? I know where I'm going next. I don't have to think about it. I just know. Okay, I'm at step 1. My job right now is to get you to step 2. Right? When we don't have this stuff, and I see it all the time, I'm here, and all I'm thinking about is getting you there. And so I end up skipping important things in that process that could probably make this phone call go a lot easier for us, for you and for me. So having a process always tells us where to go next. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to get creative. We don't, it can be I'm sure it's mentally exhausting as it is, right? Being on the phone all day, talking with people, problem solving, trying to understand what they're saying, trying to figure out a way to communicate to them so they can understand how to enter their password into virtual branch, right? So, I get it, and so what you don't want to have to do is recreate every single phone call what you do. So what we want to do is we want to have some sort of process so that we always know where to go next, okay? So what's the first step in your phone call process?
Greeting.
Greeting, right? So we've got the greeting. What's it sound like?
Thank you for calling. This is Nikki. How may I help you?
Thank you for calling. This is Nikki. How can I help you?
That's what mine sounds like.
Okay. What's everybody else? Does everybody else sound like that?
I just say good morning or good afternoon, whatever the time of day is.
I always mess that up. I just say hello. This is Jessica.
Oh, I have to
Yeah,
stop
if I
and
say
think what
morning
time
or
of day
night.
it is.
Basically name and
Good morning.
help you.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, this is Jessica. How can I help
And that works, right? I mean, we can't make that any better, can we? I mean, how many ways can you say hello on the phone?
Anyone you want.
Don't get me started.
Wow. That would-
Especially with caller ID when you can see who's calling in. Oh, I really want to pick that
You
phone
again.
up.
Right?
You rang.
You rang.
You're.
So, what's the next thing that you do on the call?
Account number.
The account number, just like
Well,
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see what they listen to their.
So some of you ask for the account number right off the bat. Right? Is that what you're saying?
No, usually they'll ask their question first,
Yeah.
Okay.
generally.
If you say like, how can I help you? Then
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm looking for your balance. Oh, can I get your account number?
Okay.
Usually,
Usually. Not always.
not always.
So, I'm gonna, and for a couple of you that did the training that we did before, right, you'll remember this term, but I'm gonna teach you about maps. Okay, now you know what a map is for like when you're driving, right? Fair? Everybody knows what that is. But every time there's an interaction between two human beings or more, there's also a map present, all right? So when that person calls you, what do they want to do?
To their endpoint.
They want to get to their endpoint. They want to accomplish something.
Mhm.
Now maybe it's to make you feel bad at yourself because they're feeling bad right now because something's going wrong, right? Sometimes that really happens. In other cases though, it's they're legitimately, I'm locked out of my account, I forgot my password, I'm having trouble in some fashion, right? So what they have what's called a map. And it's, I'm here right now and I'm trying to get to here And so I have devised a strategy for that to happen. All right, so they have their own map. You also have your own map as well, which we're talking about right now. It's this process. What happens is if those two things don't line up, you are going to have immediate conflict, no matter what frame of mind the person was when they called. Okay? So it's a very important thing to understand, because too often we just think about this and trying to hammer people through it. Let me just get them through this, fix this problem, and get off the phone. And in the meantime, they have a different idea of how this phone call is going to work. And so we get conflict, and we don't want that, right? So what we have to do is we have to understand what their map is. You don't have to worry about understanding yours because you already know it, right? You know what you're going to do. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to ask you what your account number is or why you called, and then we're going to go through this process, right? But we need to understand what theirs is. So in your greeting, right, you want to kind of filter some of that stuff in there, and you kind of already do it. How can I help you? Right? Right now, what you're doing is you're asking them, you know, like, what are you trying to accomplish right now? What I will tell you is this. Before you get too deep into your process, you want to get as much information from them as possible. Too often we think we know the answer to something very quickly, and so we try to solve it super quick, and it's not it. Or it's just not how their map works. Like, you may be solving the problem, but maybe you're doing it too fast, because they have a map that takes a little more time. They need to be handled a little more gently, right? I don't know if that sounds familiar or not when you're on the phone, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's slow down. Like, you know, I'm not so sure that's what we're talking about here. And it's because we're just moving faster than they want to move, okay? So we really need to understand who we're talking to, why they're on the phone, all those things. So what we call it, right, is just formulating your map, okay? So here's my map. I need to get a quick understanding of what their map is. So it can be like something, again, as simple as, so what were you hoping was going to happen on our call today? Right? Find out. And you can be a little more gentle with it, you know, if you feel like that's a little too direct and a little assertive, you know. How can I help you is asking the same thing, but it's still not quite enough. Just know that you want to dig a little bit more to find out exactly what they're trying to accomplish. You know, are you just trying to reset your password? How do we get into that situation? How are you hoping this is going to be, right? Does that make sense? Is that fair? Okay. All right, so we're going to formulate our maps. The greeting, map. Now we're going to diagnose the problem. Now I'm making this sound very complicated, but what I want to do is show you that there are these pieces that are happening, and that we just have to know that they exist. Whether we're following them or not doesn't matter. They still are there, okay? Just like whether or not you believe the other person has a map doesn't matter. It's still there, whether you like it or not, okay? So diagnose the problem. So what does that look like when we're trying to diagnose the problem?
We need to ask more probing questions.
Okay?
Just listen, maybe take notes, write down it just takes more listening, really.
It takes a lot of listening.
Yeah.
And sometimes more questions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, dig a little deeper to see exactly what the issue is.
And sometimes they have more than one issue.
Or they don't know their issues.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So there's so many things that can be happening, and sometimes just I can't remember my password is not the actual problem. It's just a symptom of the problem, right? So we want to make sure that we're really spending time, and again, I'm not saying it's got to be 4 hours on the phone. You know, tell me about your parents. You know, maybe that's why you can't remember your password.
That's what's happened.
No, I'm sure it does. You know, there's a lot of lonely people in the world, right? And they get someone to talk to, and it's great, and you're so nice. So, diagnose the problem. We want to find out exactly what's happening, right? We know the map. We know what they want to achieve. We know how they want to get there. But now we have to really understand how they arrived there to begin with, and how many times this week has it happened. Right? I'm thinking about the message I heard with you on the phone.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's like the 4th time this week.
Mhm.
And, you know, I can't remember any of my security questions and all these things. And it's, you know, okay, really what's the problem? I mean, is it that technology is just not for you? You know, I mean, some cases.
Cash.
Some people should just use cash, right? Some,
People should not use electronics.
No, they should not.
no, it's, not everyone adopts everything the way that we would hope, right? Some people fight it. So, but we really need to diagnose the problem. And because what we don't want them doing is calling up the 4th time in the week if we can help it. Sometimes, you know, in the example I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking
I
about.
do.
I don't think that's a problem that's ever gonna be solved,
I don't
just from listening
either.
to the message, but, you know. So again, we wanna diagnose the problem, all right? Make sure that we have a full understanding of what's truly going on. Fair? Okay. And then, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do what's called a resolution test. Any idea what a resolution test is?
Propose the solution, maybe, and see if that's what's going to make them happy, make them feel like they've accomplished something.
Yes, and it's gonna happen in the form of a question though, right? It's not, here's what I'm gonna do for you, fella, right? It's, hey, how would this sound to you? Would this be okay? And then you offer up the solution. With it, if we're able to do that, and again, you're gonna be if we're able to do that, is that gonna be everything that you were hoping was gonna happen today on this call? Something along those lines, right? And they say, well, you know, yeah, that'd be perfect. Or they say, no, you're still missing something here. You know, I'm still looking for something else. And then, okay, so then we're back in the diagnosis, right? And we're asking some more of those questions and really getting a firm understanding of what's happening and why they're doing that and what the problem is. Fair? Okay. Last but not least, if they say yes, guess what we're going to do? I know you can read my handwriting, it's very clear. We're going to repeat what we said again, right? So I do a resolution test. They say, yes, that's perfect. And you say, okay, so one more time from the top, right? I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Just want to make sure that's 100% going to be okay for you. Yes, it's going to be okay, great. And then be very clear with your next steps. Clear next steps are so important when dealing with other humans. Very often, we do not give clear next steps, and so people are unsure of what's about to happen, even though you said it twice, okay? I gave the resolution test, I then repeated it. And now I'm just gonna do it. Guess what? I still have to give them a next. I have to clearly tell them, here's what's going to happen next then, and then say it again. Because if we don't, and I've been on the line when people don't give me that clear next step, and I'm moderately intelligent, you know, I don't think I'm an idiot, I'm certainly not Einstein or a genius, but when they don't give me that clear next step, I'm still a little unclear. And so I will ask for it, like, okay, just so I'm positive on this, what's happening next? And then they're pretty much telling me what they already told me twice, right? But they're just gonna say, okay, here's what I'm going to do for you, Mr. Nelson, we're gonna do this and this and this, you are all set, you need to take no further action. Or, you need to take further action, you need to come into the branch, have a conversation with Crystal or wherever branch they go to, and they're gonna take care of you from there. And I pass notes over to them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fair? Clear next step's so important. Every single interaction, every single phone call, every conversation should always end with a very clear next step. Okay? So, this is a process. It's structured. It makes everything easy for everyone involved, both you and the person on the other end of the phone. Okay? Fair? All right. I will probably say fair a million times, just so you know. It gets a little repetitive. I get picked on all the time. So
Is that a fair warning?
Fair. Yes, absolutely. All right. You like that, right? Well, good morning. I would like to share with you some exciting news. I didn't know that.
Oh, was it really?
That's definitely not my handwriting. You can actually read that. All right. So we're going to talk about understanding your customer. All right. We're going to spend about 20, 25 minutes on this stuff. Some principles of psychology. So, are you familiar with what's called the okay, not okay principle? I'd be surprised if you were, so don't feel like you're. Okay. Anybody ever heard of a form of psychology called transactional analysis? Brilliant. Perfect. Okay. So, transactional analysis is a form of psychology that came out of the mid-1960s, all right? And it dealt specifically with what they would call as a transaction, and that's any interaction between two people, minimum, right? That's considered a transaction. And to be a transaction, communication needed to be initiated in some fashion, and it needed to be answered in some fashion, okay? And there's lots of ways that that happens, but in this case, we'll keep it pretty simple, right? For you guys, it's someone calls in, you pick up the phone, we're now in a transaction. So let's start with what being okay is. So every day, all day, every one of us wants to feel okay about ourselves, internally, right? Now, in a lot of cases, we look externally for that okayness. And for some people, that's all they do, is completely, we call it validating, right? We externally validate or we internally validate. So most people externally validate all day long. And every time they get what we would call a positive stroke, right, they feel better. And every single one of us has this little counter in our brains that requires a certain number of positive strokes throughout the day, every single day, in order to feel good about themselves. If they don't get enough strokes, then they feel bad about themselves. Not okay, right? Then they start to feel bad or poor about themselves. They also can feel not okay just because you are more okay than they are, right? You ever walk up to that person or you're interacting with someone and they just think that they are hot stuff, you know, and it makes you feel less than them? Do you want to be around them very much after that? You don't, right? I mean, we don't. It's just like, oh, that person's way too together for me, right? Like, I'm a hot mess. This person over here is like really got it together. And I just can't be around that kind of negativity. So, so we feel not okay though, and so we don't want to be around that person. And so the okay, not okay principle is all about helping other people around you feel okay all the time. And so long as you feel okay, and so long as I'm the person that's helping you feel okay, then you're gonna like me, you're gonna wanna be around me, right? When you call up and I'm making you feel okay, you're like, oh, you're so great, Erica. You know, you just make me feel so good every time I call, appreciate it, you know. So it's the okay principle. So when you're on the phone, here's the thing, you will be able to hear people go not okay. You've heard people go not okay. It sounds like, right? Or their tone of voice shifts, and it goes from what sounded like a positive, happy person to a not so positive, happy person. They just went not okay. And it's important to know that it's a thing. And it's a thing that you can actually have effect on. Okay? Fair? Fair. So, we know our job, when we're talking to people on the phone, is to make them feel okay. And sometimes, what are some ways that we can make people feel okay?
We could try to relate to them and their issues so that way they feel like they're not alone.
Sometimes, but we have to be careful, right? Because now, if we get too much on their side, which sometimes we do in customer service, especially I see it, we get too much on their side, and now it's me and you against the establishment, man. You know, and now they're still enemies. The banks, you know, HRCCU is still the enemy, but we're simpatico, but they are not so much, right? And so we have to be careful with that. Yes, we want to have that bonding and rapport thing so that, you know, we feel like we have a bond, but we don't want to do it at the expense of the organization or of someone else. And people do that all the time, right? So it's like, hey, I want to be your friend. I know you don't like that person. I don't like that person anymore. Right? And so I'm going to tell you all about how they stink, right? And I don't blame you for not liking them. And now all of a sudden we have a bond. Fair? People do that all stuff all the time, and that's a trap though, because you can get into a really not great place, especially doing what you're doing. Real quick, it can go south on you. All right, so 100% okay to be like, oh yeah, I'm the same way. No, totally understand, get it, yep. But only when it's not having to do with anyone else or with the organization or even a program, right? So like if it's something along the lines of, oh yeah, I don't know why they do it that way. It makes zero sense to me. Breaks. Because now you're on their side and you're building a relationship with them, but it's so long as you're putting down the policy or the program.
Oh, no.
Or no, I
Yeah.
don't mean you're saying it that way. I'm just saying it's a trap that a lot of people run into.
Right. I'm just saying more like showing empathy and
Yeah.
kind of like, I know with some people who've called, you can kind of tell that they think that, like, whoever's answering the phone thinks that they're better than they are. And it's basically, I think it's just better to humanize yourself.
Because they call up thinking
Right, so you're
they're
not
feeling not okay.
Exactly. And that's just it. I mean, you just have to think that everybody's going through something, and it's just important to keep that in your head when you're talking to them. I'm not saying, you know, this place sucks. No, I would.
Oh
you
no,
know,
I definitely know. But I'm just saying, you know, as a caveat, like
Yeah.
just be careful because
Right.
it's real easy to get pulled in. Then all of a sudden you said it and you're like, oh crap, and you can't go back. But you make a great point. They are calling you up. They are already not okay. We want to make them feel okay, right? So we can do a few things. What else can we do? So bonding and rapport stuff. What else can we do?
Use their name.
Use their name. Again, good bonding and rapport technique, right?
Thank them for calling.
What's that?
Thank them for calling.
Thank them for calling. Hey, appreciate your calling, right?
And let them know
Soothing.
you really wanna help them.
Right,
Yeah.
You're interested in solving their problem or.
and that they did the right thing to make the right decision.
Nurture, 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 right? It's just like mom putting a Band-Aid on my knee when I skinned it, you know, or kissing the boo-boo, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. It's kissing the boo-boo. But again, it's nurturing. It makes them feel, it's soothing. What's that?
Thank God it's through the telephone.
You know. So, nurture, nurture, nurture. Want to be soft. Want to be soothing. Want to let them know that we're going to take care of it. We're going to help them out. We're going to make it better. Fair? So, that's another thing that's going to help them feel okay. Because that's one of the things when some people call you, not everybody, right? But when some people, they just want to know that someone's going to tell them it's going to be okay. They're going to help them with it. And it's like, okay, thank God. Because I was freaking out, you know? Like, not sure what happened. Like, I can give you an example of my card information was stolen, or I think we bought something in China or something, and it caused a security alert, locked my debit card up. So all of a sudden I couldn't buy anything. Couldn't get gas, couldn't get ATM. I'm like, I don't know what the hell is happening, but I'm in trouble. So I like called, you know, and someone was on the phone. Made me feel okay. Oh, we'll get you straightened out. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. Phew. Got a little nervous there. Didn't know what happened. Didn't know if, you know, the FBI finally found me or what it was. Joke. All right, so you're gonna make them feel okay. You're gonna help them know it's all right. We're gonna get through it. Another way to help people feel okay is to go not okay. Right? So this is, you do this all the time, right? Some people call it like self-deprecating humor. You've heard people do that, right? Where they just make fun of themselves all day long. I will do it quite a bit. So I feel like if I make fun of myself and people laugh, then they're like, okay, he doesn't think he's that cool. I am. So, thought it was gonna be funnier, Rick. So, I go not okay. I let people know that, like, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm more not okay than you. Because we love people that are not okay, that are less okay than us. It makes us feel better about ourselves, right? It sounds awful, but it's true. Listen, you could have, I'll give you an example. So this is a funny story. This is me using the okay, not okay example to get help in a situation. So I messed my phone up about 3 or 4 years ago, where I cracked the screen, it was completely inoperable, and at that point in time, I worked 100% from my phone, okay? So there was nothing I could spend $800 on a new phone, or I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm going down to the Apple store. So I go down to the Apple store. I couldn't get an appointment for 2 days. I needed an appointment that afternoon, right? So before I got in there, I'm walking down the mall. Now, keep in mind, I'm in like a full trench coat. I'm suited up. My hair's perfect. I'm on point. I'm ready. And right about 10 feet before I got the door, I got my tie all crooked. I got my hair messed up. I got half my shirt out of my pants and made myself look totally disheveled and not okay. And I went in there and I finally got, what's that?
You did that on purpose?
Yes. And I went in, I got the guy, I'm like, I need your help, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I got the biggest phone call of my life at 2 o'clock. It's 1:15. Look at my phone. I'm freaking out, man. I need a new phone. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I couldn't get an appointment for like 2 days. He goes, listen. And there's this wall art at the Apple store down in Albany, and it had all these like things on it. He goes, you see that thing over there? Go stand over there. So I'm like, thanks, bro. Your help saved my life. I went over, stood over there, completely not okay. They helped me within 5 minutes. I was in and out of there in 25 minutes with a fixed new phone and on my way and happy, okay? It's the power of being not okay. If I went in there all put together and like, Erica, need a new phone. Let's go. Help me out. What do you say? Completely too okay, right? You're not helping me. No way. No way are you helping me. But it's the point of being not okay. People instantly want to help you. We love to help other people. If I see that you need my help, I will help you. I don't care what it means or what it's going to take. Like, whatever you need, man, let's make it happen. Okay? But if you come in there all like, too put together and too over the top and too polished and too, I'm like, I'm gonna do everything I can to not help you right now, right? And that is us, that's people, that's what we do, okay? It's real. So just remember, when you're on the phone with people, sometimes we need to go a little not okay. Now, I'm not saying go to all those theatrics, okay? Now, I think it's funny because I know this stuff. So I do it, it makes me laugh, it gives me a story for when I'm in training. It's not what I'm saying that you should do, but just understand the concepts that sometimes going not okay is going to help the other person on the other end of the phone feel okay. See, she just went not okay. Everybody instantly was like, oh. Yeah, exactly. Oh. The room stops. Let's stop recording. Give her some help. So, does that make sense, though? With the not okay principle, again, it's does it happen all the time?
Like
Yes.
every day.
We'll be talking about that stuff
I got
later.
put right here in the middle, that's why.
All right, so I just, again, I don't want to tell you to get theatrical and be silly on the phone, but I just want to say that sometimes going not okay, letting them know that they are okay and that you are not okay. Like, an easy example is, I said the wrong thing. Oh my God. I'll give you a real example. So this weekend, I was in a class, woman had lost her husband about a year ago, right? And I said something stupid, because I often do say stupid things. And I was just like, oh, you know, you and your husband gonna blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh no, my husband died. And you could tell she felt not okay, right? And so I immediately, and this wasn't even an act, I just felt like a jerk. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, I didn't know. And immediately, you know what she started to do? She started to rescue me. It's okay, you didn't know. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, I feel like such a jackass, Paula. She's like, no, it's fine. You had no way to know, and blah. So immediately, she started trying to help me, right? I went so not okay, it made her feel okay enough to have to help me out of that situation. So, and again, that is something useful for you when you're on the phone, okay? It's just to know that sometimes someone's super irate, super angry. You being okay is only gonna add fuel to the fire, right? You being going like, hey, listen, you need to settle down, fella, right? That's not gonna help the situation at all. They are only gonna get more incensed, right? What you need to do is you need to be more not okay. Apologize, I'm so sorry, I can't believe this happened to you, I don't know what happened. I'm certainly gonna do everything I can to get to the root of the issue. And it sucks, no one wants to do that. But it's the easiest way to diffuse that person. Because no one wants to kick someone while they're down, right? And so if you act like you're down, they're gonna stop kicking. Does that make sense? Is that fair? I think about that call with that guy, you know?
Yes.
And it was just like, and you did a great job, by the way. Listening to that call, you did everything you could to stay calm, kept trying to move the call forward, kept trying to get resolution. He kept wanting to come back and just keep hitting you with it. And it's not an easy call to be on, right? So another technique, and again, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. Most people could and should handle themselves like you did in that call. Another way to handle that call, though, would just be completely not okay. Maybe start crying. I don't know. I'm so sorry. No, he's gonna soften up for you. So, is that okay? We'll get off the okay, not okay stuff. But again, and we touched on strokes. Positive strokes are a real easy way also to make people feel okay. So positive strokes. I love that shirt. Great. You have something with your hair? Glasses around for it. You know, like, those are all positive strokes. Saying something nice, a compliment, again, don't overdo it, because then it's just, you know, straight up cheese, you know, it's just a little over the top, but, all right, so, what's the difference between being assertive and being aggressive? It's a hard one.
Fine line.
Sometimes.
I think aggressive is more emotional.
Okay.
Aggressive is more like reactional, where assertive is like you're kind of basing your thoughts off facts.
Okay.
So like you're asserting what you know, whereas I'm getting aggressive, I'm reacting to how they're reacting to the conversation with them, I guess.
Okay. I like it. Aggressive is more emotional, right? Assertive is more informational. It's an important thing. A lot of us have trouble, most people I know, in fact, have trouble being assertive without being aggressive. You know, they will not, it amazes, my girlfriend Kayla is such a prime example of not being able to be assertive without aggressive. Instead of just saying to someone, no, I don't want that, she will wait until they have badgered her and badgered her and badgered her so that she gets so upset that she has to, like, no, stop it. You know, like now lashing out almost, you know, and it's like, didn't have to go that far. You could have just said no the first time, right? But a lot of us have trouble with that we have trouble just saying, no, I can't do that, or no, I'm not willing to do that, or no, that's not the way that this is gonna work. Right? Real simple for me to say, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry, sir, that I can't do that for you. That's just not gonna happen. Instead, we kind of say like, okay, and then it goes to a point of where we have to become aggressive, or we feel we have to become aggressive, right? So again, we're not gonna spend a ton of time on it. I just wanna identify the fact that there is a difference between assertive and aggressive, and then make sure, and again, I don't think that any of you fall into this category, okay, with being aggressive. We didn't hear it on the calls at all. But just learning to be assertive with people, it's a skill that most of us, like personality-wise, I mean, you were there for the trainings, you remember the DISC stuff, so we do a lot of personality training stuff, and my personality, very assertive, very easy, I can say just about anything, and it could be rude or not rude, and I have no problem saying it, right? Whereas other people are too afraid that they're going to upset someone or cause conflict or be ridiculed because they said something, and so it becomes harder for them to be assertive. So again, depending on what your personality style is, how many people feel that it's easy for them to be assertive? Yeah?
I think it depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation?
Yeah.
That's probably me.
Does the situation mean that someone has to be deserving of your assertiveness? Because that's almost walking the line of having to become aggressive to be assertive, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's,
Yeah.
well, if I'm pushed hard enough, I can be assertive. Like, well, no, if you're pushed hard enough, you can be aggressive, right? So, but being assertive is just matter-of-factly being able to say something as it is. This is the way that it goes. How would you like me to proceed? Right? Assertive. You strike me as someone that would be assertive with no problem.
You know, my head right now is just like, ugh. I'm ready to no, because I'm ready to come out with this phone call. The first phone call I had today, it was
Yeah.
perfect example. If you guys don't mind, I don't want to take anybody off track.
No,
I'd love
let's
to
do
share
it.
So I had a woman, and I can't believe I'm sharing this right now because God only knows which way this is going to go. This woman called up because she was in Mexico, and she had called prior to put a travel exemption on her debit card, and it wasn't done. And I did the not okay thing immediately, and I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, because what I'm thinking in my mind is, this might be a trip of a lifetime for this girl, and here she is, she's in Mexico, and she is stranded. So I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. She says, yeah, this is effing, you know, and I said, okay. I said, okay, let's fix this problem, and we'll get this taken care of. So I'm talking to her and trying to get this fixed, and I'm trying to put it on there. She goes, do you know who the employee was? I said, no. But I would like to, because at this point I'm thinking, you know, we need this for a training. This is a training issue. And she said, honestly, everybody put your minds at ease. I have no clue who it was, because there was nothing in the system. Okay, so don't worry about it. That's a moot point. So I said, no, I'd like to know too. And she says, yeah, I'd like to know who the stupid employee was that did this. I said, okay. I said, we don't have to go into name calling. You know, so she says, I think you're taking this out of proportion by saying it's name calling. I said, well, I'm just trying to fix this problem for her. She says, you don't understand. I said, that's why I'm trying to move as quickly as I can. I said, because I can only imagine what you've been going through to try to say, so I'm trying to handle this as quickly as possible. So she started with the name calling again. I said, I just don't think that that's necessary at this point. I said, let's get your problem fixed, and then we'll just make sure that you're all set. And I said, like I said, I'm very sorry. And she says, well, I just hadn't had a chance to call. And I said, wait a minute. I said, did you have to get a international cell phone plan after you got there in order to be able to make this phone call? She said, oh my goodness. I said, geez, I am so sorry about that. And she was really nasty from start to finish, no matter how not okay I was with it. And but yeah, I did have to get assertive with her, and it was just one of those things where I said, I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your trip, and I hope that everything's all set for you, and I'll talk to you soon, and blah, 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 blah. And that was it. But it was one of those things that stayed with me, because it was just like, I was really good to her too, you know? But, you know, I guess, Heather would say, that I don't have a problem with being assertive, but I don't know, it just depends on the situation. I'm trying to connect to these people on a more human level
Mm-hmm.
while still being professional, but, I mean, I do try to put empathy first, but yeah, there comes a point, where it's just.
Well, and communication is a very funny thing,
Yes.
all right? I deal a lot in communication. And we all communicate in a certain way, right? And you've all experienced this, and maybe you're aware of it, but a lot of people are not, right? But there are specific ways that people communicate. So I was actually, I'll share another personal story. Over the weekend, I was witnessing a teacher be an awful communicator and then get mad at people because they didn't understand the directions that he gave them, right? And I was laughing because I know I do that same crap. So I was telling my team, I'm like, oh my God, I met my twin brother, and this is how, and I'm like, and on the ride home, I'm thinking, God, that's exactly how I communicate sometimes. And I was like, oh, I'm like, I wonder if that's how. So I go back and I tell Kayla, and I'm describing this whole situation, and she's just looking at me like, okay, and then walked away because she knows it's exactly how I communicate. Because, again, we don't always realize if we're communicating well or not, right? We think that we are. I think I'm a fantastic communicator. What are you talking about? Right? But turns out I'm not always on point with my communication. So, and I just bring that up because it could have just been that you two communicate in different fashions, and there was just what we would call a cross transaction. There was just, it was going to take a lot of work for you to change your communication pattern, or for her to change hers. And what happens is, you can never ask someone else to change their communication pattern, right? I can't be like, I'm sorry, Zach, right? Like, I'm sorry, Zach. I don't like the way that you communicate. Perhaps you could focus on what I'm doing and then change your ways to meet mine, right? We can't do that, unfortunately. So it can become very difficult.
You know, what we want to try to do is change our communication pattern. What I look for all the time is feedback, so I'm constantly probing and testing. It's one of the reasons why I say fair so much, or why I might say like okay, or why I'm always looking for people to laugh. Because if you're laughing, it means that you're having a good time, right? It's feedback. So maybe not. Maybe you're just faking it. So it's, you know, just constantly looking for feedback. So one of the feedbacks is if you are experiencing conflict in a conversation, it means that your communication is not jiving or your maps are not jiving. So I need to refine my approach, right? Or change it. And again, not saying that you did anything wrong.
No, I'm just thinking, like, I don't know how I could have turned that conversation around, because when I got off the phone, what I was thinking is, she wanted blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
From whoever didn't do this in the first place. And I couldn't give it to her, you know?
She's saying she's doing what every human does. We're angry, we're lashing out, we need someone to blame, it's gotta be someone's fault, and you're gonna pay, right?
Mhm.
Even if you are a sweet woman who's 98 years old and has 100 grandkids and you make them all apple pies every single Sunday because you're such a great human, you're still gonna pay for what you did to me because I'm in Mexico, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like, that's what people do.
Oh, I know, and I knew because I told her. I said, yeah. I said she was trying to pay for dinner the night before, and I'm thinking, oh my God, yeah, that's not good. You
So
know?
I can tell you, like, listening to the story from the conversation,
Yeah.
there's a couple of what I would call markers that happen of when it sounds like your stuff turned, right? Did anybody else pick up on that? Like a couple things that were said that maybe that's where conflict could have arisen from? Because it sounded like you were on going good with her.
Yeah.
And then she was like a stupid person, and you're like, well, hold on, we don't have to do any name calling.
Yeah.
Right then, she was like, who are you? I'm not name calling. What are you talking about?
And that person-
That's going a little far, don't you think? So, but now she's turning her anger on you though, because you gave her the opportunity, right? So, and again, I'm certainly not going to tell you that you need to take people's stuff, right? Or to not stand up for yourself, or any of those, or protect your fellow employees, or any of those things. But you know, you'll see, like I tell people all the time, I'm almost unoffendable because things like happen, and I just let them go by. Right? And like, oh, I'm just going to let that one go by because right now, me saying anything about it is not going to help the situation. It certainly isn't going to increase the chances of a positive interaction. So I'm going to let that one go. Fifth time, though, I might be like, hey, whoa, let's pull back on the reins on the whole stupid thing. And you, like, I understand you're upset, which, you know, again, sounds like what you did.
Yeah.
But there's things like that where you're given opportunities in an interaction to bite, so to speak. And if you do, get ready, hold on, and if not, chances are you can diffuse the situation continue to go not okay until they finally change the direction or they calm down enough. Typically, people with that, once they know the situation's being rectified and is being fixed, and, you know, sometimes you gotta throw it, you gotta sweeten it a little bit for them, but
Do you want to know the amazing thing though?
I do.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Yeah.
None of the self-deprecating things that I said,
Mhm.
nothing worked until I did exactly what she had called to do before she went on her trip. And I told her, I said, listen, and honestly, if I were in her position, if I were to call somebody and say, okay, nobody put this travel exemption on, they said they were going to, and somebody says, okay, well, I'm gonna do that for you, and they say, okay, it's done, and here's what else I've done. To me, that wouldn't have been good enough. I would've been like, well, how do I know that you did it? And, you know, the other person said they were gonna do it. And, I told her, I said, okay, I've put the travel exemption on. I said, I understand that you're gonna be traveling, through North Carolina on your way back through, and I said, that's gonna be okay because I've put a complete travel exemption on your card until the day you say that you're returning. I said, so you're going to be fine, you won't have any other issues, and I'm also notating the account, which is what she said, the other person said they were gonna do, and once I said that, she was completely fine.
Okay.
None of the apologies, nothing worked. I was not okay throughout the whole call, and it was just, usually that just makes them feel so much better, and this one, it just wasn't gonna happen, until.
Maybe she was hangry and someone got her Snickers in the middle of the call.
Maybe. But
No.
yeah, it was one of the weirdest ones where, you know, I apply all those things and I mean, I'm really empathetic with a lot of people, and this was just the first one that it was just like.
Well, it's like employing the scientific method, right? And you're gonna try something, you're gonna get feedback, you're gonna see if it works. If it doesn't, you have to have what we call behavioral flexibility. You have to be able to back up, try a different approach, keep trying. So if the not okay doesn't work, or the stroking doesn't work, or, you know, the resolution doesn't work, like if nothing's working, sometimes it's just take a step back and go right back to the beginning and ask her what her map is. Hey, listen, I get you're upset. I'm here to do anything I can for you. What are you hoping to accomplish? If you just want to beat me up verbally, start swinging. I'll sit here and take it. You can swear at me and stuff for the next, I'll give you 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Okay? And then, you know what I mean? Like.
At that point, I just.
Oh, yeah, I know, it's just like, I'm sorry.
Well, again, it
depends.
It does depend. Every situation is different, and that's why we're talking about all this different stuff. And it's the main thing is just to understand that there are certain tools that you have. You can use them. You can not use them. You do most of these things already. It's just knowing that they're a thing and being able to pull it out and say, okay, you know what? Right now I'm going to go not okay. Let's see if that works. Right? And like, okay, well that didn't work. Like, well, maybe let's try to you know, do a bunch of compliments. You know, let's just compliment the crap out of this person and see if that works. You know, and then nope, that's not working. So let me just back up and just start this whole call over again because I'm completely lost. Right? So sometimes that's the situation. So yeah, and there's no magical recipe either. The important thing is to follow your process, right? Follow the structure, just keep trying to advance the call through that process, and to use these different tools and things that we're gonna talk about on the way through to try to, you know, sometimes you gotta step back, sometimes you can move forward, see what happens. And hopefully, you know, the idea is to get a positive result at the end, right? Some sort of positive result. All right, so we understand the difference between assertive and aggressive, fair? Fair? All right, so one last thing about transactional analysis. So this may be a little, I don't know, not high level enough, maybe a little too far into it, but this stands for parent, adult, and child. Now, these are what we would call ego states, and not like Freudian ego states, like the id and super ego and all that fun stuff, but these are 3 parts of our personality that are formed throughout childhood, right? So I'll give you a quick just because it's fun and it's cool. So your child ego state, right? This is an emotional ego state. Anytime someone's being emotional, this is where they are, guaranteed, okay? So it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be whining, crying, laughing, okay? They're in a child ego state. Our emotions when we're a child are the only things that we have for quite some time before we get language. So everything is experienced as an emotion. Fair? Okay. When we are about 10 to 12 months old, there's a little recorder that goes on in our brain. And we record everything that we see and we hear and we smell and we taste. We record every single thing that we see people doing around us, more importantly. That's where our parent ego state comes from. It's why someone will say something like, "Oh, you're just like your father." Right? It's because I recorded it as a child. It's been in there. And then I ran into a situation that looked similar to what I saw my dad doing in that situation. So I hit play on the recorder and then I became my dad for 4 minutes and 38 seconds. We'll stay with that number. Right? So we become that person. So this is what happens. For 7 years, we record everything. Everything, right? Scary, right? Who's got kids? We're just messing them up left, right, and center. Okay? So, and this is why. This is the psychology behind it, all right? So they're emotional, they're recording everything, and then they become the parent. And so when you talk to people sometimes, this will typically happen in a stressful situation. What happens is, this is the way our brains work. We get into stress situations, we don't know how to behave, so our brain is built to hit play on the recorder. It literally will pull out a map, right? It's going through its like stressful situation, what do we do? And your adult brain, which we'll talk about in a little bit, doesn't have a solution fast enough, so your parent brain goes, okay, here you go. Whoop. Guess what you're doing? Just what your dad did, or your mom did, or whoever whatever recording you have in there. And it comes out. So sometimes those people on that phone call, that stuff that's coming out of their mouth, it's because they recorded it when they were a kid.
That's sad.
It's the way of the world.
If I'm thinking about that phone call this morning, that's sad. So.
It's the way of the world. It happens, right? And listen, we've all got good and bad, what we call programming from this stuff, okay? It's no one's perfect, unfortunately. Not even me, right, Rick? Correct. So we got your parent. And then there's your adult. Your adult is your ego state that takes in information and spits out information in a non-emotional manner, okay? It's based purely on intellectual information. At any given point in time, you are in one of these three states. Every one of us, every day, all the time. And it switches, and it can switch like that. Now, I spend a lot of time in my child state. That's why I'm always trying to be funny and always trying to make people laugh because it's an emotional thing, and I like being there, okay? Your parent state comes in either one of two things. It comes in the critical parent, can't believe you spelled that, jeez. Or your nurturing parent. We talked about nurturing, right? Like, oh, you need a Band-Aid? You okay? You hungry? You thirsty? Need a blanket? Right? So when you hear people doing either one of those things, know that that's a parenting program. Same thing with child program, they're emotional. What we want to do is stay here all the time, as much as possible. Because and we're going to bring this around to everything we talked about earlier. You've got two people in an interaction, in a transaction. If I'm in a child state and you're in a child state, how do you think we're doing?
Great.
We're doing great. Provided that they're the same child state. Right? If I'm being a funny child and you're being a spoiled brat child, then we're probably not getting along so well, right? But most of the time, we would call these a parallel transaction if we're in the same ego state, right? So same thing if we're here, same thing if we're here. But if I'm here and you're doing this, it's a cross transaction, okay? And so this is something that we look for. Now, this is very complicated. I'm not asking you to understand cross transactions and the different forms of child. What I'm going to tell you to do is that when people are in an emotional state, where do you think we want to get them?
The adult.
Into the adult, into a non-emotional state. That's the trick. If people are in a parenting, more importantly, a critical parent, right, where they're talking about how people are stupid and all that stupid stuff that's going on, who's an idiot that did that one, that's a critical parent program, okay? And it's not easy. You've got two choices. You can either do critical parent with them, which we don't want to do. Like, I don't know who that idiot is either, but trust me, they're on the chopping block, right? We can't and don't want to do that. So we need to somehow get them down into an intellectual state. One of the ways that we can do that is to talk to them, hey, you're getting upset. Are you getting frustrated? Yeah, I'm getting frustrated. Okay, no, I understand. Right? I'm trying to reason with them. I'm not being emotional. I'm not being nurturing either. Because when someone's in that mood and you start being nurturing, how does that go?
They get mad.
Well, come on, I know I've done it. Almost everybody's done it. Like, you know, you're in a mood, critical parent, right? And someone's trying to make it better.
It makes it worse.
Don't make it better. Get away from me.
You don't want it
Don't
better.
fix my problem. I want to wallow in my self-pity. Get out of here. Right? So you don't want to nurture. You don't want to nurture, and you don't want to be critical parents. That's really not any fun. So we need to try to just be an adult. Be in that adult fashion. Be non-emotional. Be intellectual. And address things, right? When we look at things as an intellectual exercise, it's you're upset. You're hurt. There's something I can do for you. What is it? Right? And I'm just going to stay very calm. And if you, long enough, you'll actually bring them into that state with you. Like, it's like mind control, okay? I can like make you an adult. Imagine that. So, but it takes a lot of patience, and it's very hard because people, depending on your own programming, we all have different stuff, okay? And depending on what it is, like I've got a good amount of critical parents, so it's easy for people to pull me in there, and I feel I'm like, gotta stop and breathe. Breathe in, I'm not going critical parent. So, but they will pull you into it, and next thing you know, you're playing their game, which we don't want to do, okay? Especially with you guys, you deal with it all day, every day, right? On call number 10, how you feeling?
I need a drink.
Right, I know. No, listen, we are human. You're not robots, so it's okay to admit it, right? It's after call number 10 of people just disgruntled and upset.
I wanna go home.
You real quick, people are starting to pull you into place, starting to pull you away from the adult, and that's where you want to spend your time. As an adult, you can communicate with everybody, right? You can acknowledge the child, okay? And hopefully they're the funny child and not the one that's trying to set fire to your mattress. Okay? But again, it's just be in that adult ego state. Think about that the whole time, right? I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I'm an adult. And I'm just gonna talk to you're upset. I understand. Let's see what we can do about this. How do you see me fixing this problem for you? Get them to tell you. And as you get them to talk intellectually and give you actual real information, they should start to calm down over time. Now it might take 5 or 10 minutes. It might take 2 minutes, okay? But know that these things are real and this is happening while you're on the phone with that person. You're on one side and they're on the other side, and our jobs are to be here. Because as calm, intellectual, cool as a cucumber thinking adults, we can fix this problem real easy. It's the other stuff that gets in the way. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Okay. It's really cool stuff. I think it is. What do you guys think? Cool stuff? Is this helpful?
Yes,
Okay.
very helpful.
All right. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. Any questions on this stuff so far? We're gonna switch modes into some communication stuff here in a second, but before we do, any questions on assertive and aggressive? Okay, not okay? All that stuff we're good on? Okay. How about the process stuff we talked about in the beginning? Okay.
That makes sense.
Before we leave and go into actually it's going to be a part of communication really. When we're going through our process, what do you do on the phone all the time that you shouldn't?
Something else?
Interrupt.
Everything? No.
Yeah. Multitasking.
Yeah.
Multitasking, so you're doing, so just so you know, there is no such thing as multitasking.
Right.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Right.
It really isn't. You're either doing something or you're not, right? And we love to tell ourselves that we can do 4 things at one time or even 2 things, but honestly, our brains, I don't care how great you are, and you're all great, I promise. What it doesn't, you cannot. You're doing
not
2
okay.
things very quickly, but you're not doing them simultaneously, right? And so, like when we do workshops on this stuff, we do a drill where I get 2 people up. Actually, you want to do it?
Sure. Pick 2 people.
Well, we'll need 3 people. Okay, so here we're gonna get you 3 up here. I'm gonna step out of scene.
Philo, be
Come
careful.
on, Faith.
Feels like a
So this will be
bit
fun.
sitting,
This is
right?
a fun little exercise. So I need the 3 of you to stand next to each other. Okay. Now here's what's gonna happen. You're in the middle, so you're the multitasker.
Oh, wonderful.
I want you to show her an imaginary photo album,
and and get her to describe the pictures to you that you're showing her, and you need to ask her about the pictures in the book, and at the same time you need to ask her math questions. 2 + 2, 3 × 10,
Okay,
7
that
+ 17,
calculator.
things like that.
I'll ask
So
you easy ones.
if give her easy ones, because she's still not going to be able to do both at the same time.
Okay.
Okay. So all right, everybody understand the?
Yes.
Okay. So you go ahead and start showing her your album. You go ahead and start asking her math questions.
1 + 3. 4. That is my horse. It's Bo. What's that Bo doing? He's eating 11? Grass. 11 - 4. Running, kicking me. 7. Pretty aggressively. I'm bleeding here in this picture. Oh, I'm hurt. That hurt. 9. It did. 1 × 5. He bit me. 5. He bit you. Lost a finger. 5 × 7. Lost a finger.
All right, go ahead. Great job. Okay, that's great. So, yeah, go ahead and sit down. So, yes, give them a round of applause. So, what did everybody see happening there?
He was like all over the place.
She would answer a question. She would like focus on a question, but listen and then have to give an answer
Mhm.
after.
She wasn't standing here directly ahead, answering them both at the same time, right? Like, what was her body doing?
Turn side to side.
It would turn, right? A couple times she looked up and looked over. Fair? You know, her eyes really told the tale. When she was here, and when she wasn't, she was over in that direction or up toward the ceiling. So, yeah, we can't do it. We can't multitask. So when you're on the phone with someone, you are not on the phone with them if you're doing something else. So, but here's the trick, right? You have to put stuff into a system, right? So what do?
I will explain to them what you're doing and then ask them if they can give you a second while you do that.
Perfect. Give me 1 second. Let me just put this in. Always let them know what's happening, okay? All the time. Here, we have a thing that we call setting the conditions. I think we might have talked about it in the ambassador training stuff that we did. Setting the conditions is just letting someone know what's about to happen to them or what's happening to them currently so that they know and they can either agree with it and be okay with it or say that they don't agree and they don't okay with it and they're not okay with it, right? So we always want to be let them know. We don't want to try to do it simultaneously because then there's going to be a pause. You're going to miss something. You're going to have to say, I'm sorry, what? What did you say? I missed it, right? And how's that going to go for our phone calls, especially if they're already upset and irritated? If they're already in that critical parent, what, are you not listening? Get it together over there, right? You don't care about me, my problems? So don't try to multitask. Let them know what's happening. Know that you can do one thing or something else. I can listen to you or I can put information into the system. I can't really do both effectively. Fair? Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about communication first, being such a funny thing that it is. And if you did the ambassador training, you're not allowed to answer any of this stuff because you've already been through this. Okay. This is what is known as, you can tell I'm a graphic designer, right?
Awesome.
I'm not cutting my ear off anytime soon, believe me. So, it's my favorite art joke, by the way, too. I might draw some. So this is a communication pie, all right? It has 3 pieces. This larger piece is 55% of communication. This is 38%, and this is 7% of communication. Okay? 3 things that make up effective communication. What do you think the big one is?
Listening.
Listening. You're not allowed to answer.
Okay.
What else? What other thing? What else could it be? Listening. What else do we do when we communicate?
Respond.
We respond. What else?
Notes.
Take notes.
I don't, like, yes,
Okay.
rephrase things.
Okay. All right. So how about this? This will frame it for you. This is body language. When we are communicating with people, 55% of the way that we communicate is through nonverbal signals. 55%, over half, is what your body is doing. Nonverbal stuff.
When you're on the phone, you
Yeah,
can't
that's
see
what I'm
that.
saying, the
you
phone,
I
you
know.
basically by your voice.
I know. So what does that tell you about the communication over the phone?
You have 45%.
Your tone of voice. Yeah, your tone.
So your body language is missing. A major component of effective communication is gone,
right? So that means that the other two parts become so much more important. Now, here's the thing. Body language is not completely missing, though. How is body language still present in your communication?
Tone.
Well, so tonality is one of the parts of communication, right? For sure. And actually, well, since we're talking about it, we'll give it to you. 38% of how you communicate is tonality, how you sound.
I mean, you can tell if somebody's smiling when they're on the phone.
You can hear it,
Yeah.
right? Same thing for you. They can hear if you're smiling. Fair? What else? What else matters for body language? Your posture. Yeah. Because if I'm sitting, like there's a physiological change. So if I'm talking like this and I continue to talk and I start to bend over and now things are starting to change and I start to sound different. And if I continue to do it at some point in time, it's going to sound pretty awful, right? So as you're seated,
Yep.
as you're seated in your chair, right, what is your body doing? Are you slumped over? Are you like, hey man, sorry it's broken, no good for you, right? Let me help you. I mean, you don't sound very confident, you don't sound like you're actually going to be able to do anything, but as soon as you sit up and your posture is good and you're projecting out, you're confident, right? You're louder. Are you allowed talking?
That's what I'm told.
Everybody, they're like they gotta put you out in the hallway?
I don't know. I know cubicle
He's very
with like a door and
confident, he's
everything.
very confident.
I'm gonna yell at you, just until
It's nicely.
until you submit. Is that how it?
No, he's a
Nicely.
he's a
Yeah,
nice
he's-
talker.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing necessarily.
No, it's not.
They can hear you. Right?
Everybody loves him,
That's
everybody
for sure.
loves him.
Yeah.
So, 55% is body language, 38% is how you sound. So your body language can affect how you sound on the phone, right? Very important. Tonality is huge in face-to-face conversation. On phone conversation, tonality comes to like 80% of how you're communicating. Words still don't matter that much. I can say anything I want if I have the right tonality. And so whenever I tell that story, I talk about, anybody from the South? Live in the South? Go down South? Visit the South? Have heard of the South? Alright!
We all been down there, but.
So one of the things that they say down South all the time that makes everything okay is bless your heart.
Yeah.
So I can insult you all day long if I'm in the South, and I can say bless your heart in that Southern drawl though. So if I can say like, oh sweetheart, you're the dumbest thing I ever met. Bless your heart. It's
That's
like
what bless your heart
okay.
means.
What's that?
That's what bless your heart means,
What?
is you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Bless your
Oh,
heart.
bless your heart.
Bless your
You don't
heart.
have to say anything else.
I'll take that nicely. When
No?
somebody, yeah, no, that's an insult.
Well, I'm not from this. Well, I again, I am a little over dramatic, but you can say just about
Bless your
anything.
heart.
Bless your heart. Oh, you just don't get anything. Bless your heart. You know, like you can get away with
Never
it.
mind your stupid.
Some people
Right.
can get it, you're right.
But
some
if you
people
say it
can
in,
get
you know,
away.
in our New York accent,
Right,
like, oh,
forget
you're dumb as they come. Bless your heart.
Nuh-uh.
Doesn't have the same effect, right? Doesn't work. So tonality is huge. Again, when you're talking, and many of us are not aware of how we sound, right? I know I have some friends that are the snottiest people you will ever meet by the way they sound. Now I know that they have big hearts and they're not that way, but they just sound like. I had a client who was the most tonality-wise was the most condescending person you've ever met in your entire life. And I had to pull him aside, like, listen, do you understand why no one wants to be on your team? And he was like, no. I'm like, because you sound like you think you are better than every single person on planet Earth. Everything you say is dripping with sarcasm and condescension. I'm like, no one wants to be around you. I'm like, you have to change the way that your voice sounds. Bless your heart. You know? So, and it was just, it matters so much. I mean, you know, you hear it all the time. You hear changes in tonality from the other people on the phone, right? They go from upset to not upset, or from not upset to upset, and you hear it happen. You know, and our spouses and significant others, we hear this things, they, you know, fine. I'm fine. What? I'm fine. No, you're not. That's not a good fine. That's a bad fine. I can tell by the way it sounds. I used to have someone fight me all the time. I was like, no, you sound upset. I'm fine. Worry about it. I'm like, okay. You know, what are you gonna do? So tonality matters so much in how we're communicating. You have to pay attention to theirs
and what it's giving, the information it's giving to you, but you also have to really pay attention to yours. Right? Nurture, nurture, nurture is a good way to do it. Unless you're like me and you feel like you're being condescending when you nurture. So when I first started learning all this stuff, it was a big joke in our training team, was that I didn't have very nurturing parents, I guess, because they were trying to teach us how to nurture, and I'm like, I don't get it. I can't, I'm fighting my mom later on. I'm calling her, I'm gonna yell at her, because I don't know how to I don't know what nurturing means without being condescending. It's hard for some people. It was very hard for me to do nurturing without being condescending. Because I'd be like, oh, it's okay, little buddy. Don't worry about it. You know, and that was my nurturing at the time, like I was talking to my dog or something. I couldn't figure it out. But now I've realized that it's more about being softer in your tone, right? And not being so loud and forceful, okay? Your volume is also a tool.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's your voice is such an awesome tool. You can change it in so many ways and have effect with it. And so you can go to like talking really loud and being very confident and very forceful to then just like softening it up and talking a little slower, a little quieter, and it changes completely what you're saying. It also gets them listening a little bit more because you're being softer. You're like, I can't hear what he's saying. Right?
Be like,
Like, what?
Jack, are you there?
Can you speak up?
Yeah. I have to do that all the time. Every day I have to soften my voice and speak slower.
Mhm.
I am so aware of it to the point I'm personal saying he can't hear me, but other than that, I've had people say, well, you're condescending, and I'm never meant to sound that way. I mean, that's not just here.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend will say the same thing. He's like, you don't have to talk to me that condescending tone. So I'm like, I am so sorry that it's not. But he knows me by now. So I mean, he doesn't say that anymore, but.
Did you tell him to stop doing stupid stuff then?
No, but I've really been aware of that, but I really do have to soften my tone a lot.
It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy because I don't know if any of you noticed, but at the beginning of our time together, I was talking very loud and very fast. Did anybody notice that? I was going a mile a minute. Okay? Part of it was because of the amount of coffee I had earlier, but also just, you know, I wanted to show you the difference between what happens, you know, like it's a big extreme, right? And it's something that we can change at any point in time. But we also forget. Real easy to forget. I'm on the phone, it's the 50th phone call. I've had 18 of those guys calling me, and I'm tired, right? And so you just fall back into what your normal communication patterns are. You don't even think about it, you don't even notice it, and then next thing you know, you snap out of it and realize, I was being wicked snotty, that person. Oops. And they recorded it. And it's gonna be next week. No, I'm just kidding. So, coming back to the communication pipe. Body language, huge. Even though you're on the phone, it still matters. So pay attention to it, right? Especially in those hard calls. You have to keep your posture up. You have to keep your chin up. As long your body, what your body is doing, it will control how you feel, okay? Tonality, again, how you sound, how they sound, be very in touch with it. And then the words you use. Again, obviously, if you start throwing F-bombs through the phone, not gonna have a good effect, right? Not gonna work for anybody, so the words matter in that case. But again, ultimately, the things that you say don't matter from a word standpoint. So just know if you say the wrong thing, words-wise, not a big deal, so long as your tonality is there and it sounds okay. I say stupid stuff all the time, so it won't be just you. Anytime you say something stupid, just remember me. I say stupid stuff, you're not alone in the world, you'll be okay, right? That's me being not okay, so that you can feel okay. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, active listening. Any questions on this before we leave? It's pretty simple stuff, right? Active listening. What's active listening?
Understanding.
Okay, tell me more.
I can listen to you, or I can actually listen and like intake what you're saying. Whereas if I'm listening and I'm just sitting there, but I don't actually listen, and then I have to ask you again, like what you said. more or
Okay.
less.
So, all right, we'll accept that. What else? What else is what else would anybody add to that for active listening?
Letting them know you're listening, like if they're talking, say,
Okay.
repeat.
I
Yeah,
understand
like
what you're saying.
so that you're not
Okay.
just quiet.
So,
I hear you said your card hasn't been
Yeah.
updated for travel.
Like,
So,
you know what I mean, like
one of the tools of
restating.
active, so one of the tools of active listening is restating
Okay.
or repeating. Right? Another tool of active listening, I think you said it, was the yep, We have to be careful. We don't wanna do too much of it, cause I would call it, it's like a verbal bobblehead, right? You know the bobblehead that you sit there and the head just go. And I laugh, cause we'll be in like, not Rick, but Sean that works for us, we'll be in a joint sales meeting, and I'll be saying something, and I'm out of the corner of my eye, I can see Sean going. Cause he's agreeing, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, and I don't wanna call him out, but I'm like, come on, dude, what are you doing? You're like a bobblehead right now. But we can verbal bobblehead where we're just going, and it can get annoying, right? So we don't wanna do that, that's not gonna help your cause. We do wanna use it though, we do wanna let them know that we are listening. Because what happens when there's too much silence?
Are you still there?
All the time.
And it happens quick too. It's
All the
funny
time,
how,
yeah.
like, there's
still
that
there?
perfect amount of,
They're on a rant, right?
Yeah.
I used to, my mom does this all the time. She has such a tough time with technology. She's one of those people, resistant. She'll be like, are you still there? I'm like, yes, Mom. It's been 10 seconds. I haven't said anything. I haven't made a noise. And like, she immediately says, are you still there? I'm like, no, I hung up on you, Mom. Because that's what I do. That's the kind of guy you raised. Guy that hangs up on his mom for no reason, right? She's also, will talk into the phone for 45 minutes, even though you lost the call, and she's still going, you know? It's rough. It's hard. But in today's day and age, though, realistically, it's more important because people are often on cell phones, they can get disconnected, they don't know if you're there, so you wanna let them know, right? It's frustrating. Nothing's worse than having to be on a call where you're already upset, and then you lose signal. Now I'm mad at you and AT&T.
Oh, I hate
Right?
that fast beat.
I know.
Get right back on the phone, call them right back.
It's tough. So we want to make what we don't want to do is do ums. Okay? Do you know why we don't want to do ums other than they're just socially frowned upon? Do you know why we don't do
Sound like
ums?
you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not confident.
It sounds like no credibility, right? It sounds like you don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. No bueno. Okay. So no ums. No ums. What else can we do for active listening? Empathize.
Exactly.
Empathize. Tell me more.
Like with what Erica did on her phone call, with just
Right.
saying, you know what I mean, like, oh, I completely understand, like,
That must have been terrible, or just let them know you understand,
Okay.
like, how it feels or what they're going through.
All right. I like it. Empathize. I can't spell. If like I spelled it and that little red squiggly line went underneath it to tell me, then I would be okay. But since that I'm completely mentally handicapped by that red squiggly line right there that happens now in technology. What else can we do for active listening?
Ask questions.
Ask questions. So I've been doing it to you guys. So tell me more. You say something and I say tell me more. That's a part of active listening. Because A, it's gonna help me get more information from you. It's gonna get you to qualify it more. Same thing with repeating something. So one of the best tools, and it's the funniest thing, and I like to do it sometimes just for fun, is if you ask someone a question and they give you an answer, and then you ask them the same exact question again. They will give you more information the second time. Because psychologically, they think that they didn't answer it, and that's why you're asking the same question again. So it's, what time is it?
4:20.
What time is it? No. So it just,
4:25
whatever it can be.
PM.
PM, did you understand? But we do, we don't think that they understood, so that we will elaborate on the answer that we gave you the first time, right? So you can repeat the same exact question, you can repeat or restate what they said, we can ask questions, we can use things like, tell me more, we can use things like, and. It's one of the best words for active listening. So give me a scenario that you've been on the phone recently. Sure.
Members, just telling them what I need,
Mhm.
to complete their application, to process their application, and sometimes they don't get it.
Okay.
But
And?
And how they can get it to me, you know, drop it off at a branch, fax it to me, scan it to me. Here's my name, my number, you know, my email.
Perfect.
Call me if you have any questions,
Which means?
which means I'm there to help them.
Absolutely.
I want to service them. And I want their loans. I want their money.
We want your money! Thank you for calling. We want your money. That's your new greeting, right?
I'll show you where to sign.
So, but so you can use statements like, tell me more, and, which means, yes. Like, so, one of the great things that I in face-to-face conversation, doesn't work over the phone, and maybe a little bit over the phone, is to like make short little statements and then just stop and leave it out there. What do people do?
They try to finish your sentences.
Or they like, it sounds like it's a question, you know? So I'm like, so you're gonna tell me,
Henceforth.
Well, I really did have three more
Whatever
loans I
your
didn't
problem
tell you
is.
about.
right, so you only have the 2 loans? Oh, well, you know, and again, it's making a statement, it's restating it, but it's saying it and leaving it out there, and silence goes, and then our automatic instinct is to fill that silence. To us, we heard it as a question most of the time, okay? So like, you know, I'll tell people like, if you do it, leave it out there for about 10 Mississippi, and if they don't answer by the time that 10 Mississippi comes up, now it's awkward and you need to recover, okay? So.
Abort the mission.
Yeah, mayday, mayday, mayday. All right, so active listening, we've got restating, repeating what they said, repeating your own question the second time. You've got no ums, obviously, we can put ourselves in their shoes, or we can use these nice little questions like tell me more, and, which means. We can make statements and leave them out there like they're questions, and people will fill the silence for us. Anything else? Active listening? The mm-hms? Again, letting them know that you're still there. Again, active listening is just what it says, right? I am listening to what you're saying, but I'm doing it actively. I'm constantly letting you know that I'm still in this conversation and I haven't, glazed over and I haven't gone somewhere else, all right? All right, so the last thing, we're actually doing really well on time here, guys. The last thing that we're going to talk about today is knowing, or I should say understanding, why someone's asking you something before you answer. Okay? Why they're asking before you answer. Does anybody know what I'm talking about just by me saying that? Have you run into that?
Like they kind of know an answer to the question that they're gonna ask, or?
They already know the answer, but they're asking you anyway.
Okay, yeah.
They don't know the answer,
They need to get it.
right? But they ask anyway. And then as soon as you give them an answer, what do?
You're wrong, or they argue with you.
Yeah, they argue with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the craziest thing. You asked me a question, I answered it for you, and now you're fighting with me about the answer I gave you. Like, if you already knew the answer,
Why'd you ask?
why did you ask?
Mm-hmm.
But we can't say that.
Well, I can hang up too.
You can?
The power.
The power of the button. I have this mighty finger.
Good day.
It's hard, it's hard.
So, how do we understand why someone asks before we answer the question? Oh, that's another one. Because?
Maybe they want to
Another-
confirm if what they thought is correct.
Say that again?
Maybe they want to confirm what they thought was the answer is correct.
Maybe
or
they
wrong.
don't like the
Just not
answer.
sure.
Right, I was
They
gonna
want
say,
to,
we
they
could
didn't like the
say,
answer, they heard it from somebody
someone
else, so they're
told me
going to.
this, so they want to see what you're going to say the answer is.
Right.
It's different if they didn't like the answer.
Well, that's not what they told me in the branch.
Right, yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
not what so-and-so
But
said.
that's not what they said in
Right.
the branch.
Oh.
Well,
What did they say at the branch?
Mhm.
Sorry, you're missing
But I can't
confirm.
do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not the way it happens.
That's where the stupid people are, right?
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. So, in transactional analysis, right, to bring it back to that for a little bit, there's something called games. Now,
Okay. Maybe you should put that down with the.
What'll
ink
really
running down to the tip.
blow your minds when you know that I did that on purpose. close. Not really. I'm not that smooth, but. So, games. So we play these called psychological games. My favorite one is Yeah But. Okay? So what happens in games, in psychological games, is that there's an initiation, there is a response, and then there is the actual game that happens, and the reward that that person gets. Right? So we've got initiate, response, that's the game, and they get a reward for it. They get a point. And Yeah But, seriously. So Yeah But is my favorite example. It's the easiest example. Okay? And what the initiation is, they initiate this with, I have a problem. My problem is, I lost my favorite pot roast recipe. Can't find it. Can you help me? What would you suggest I do?
Pinterest.
Pinterest! So I told you about my pot roast problem, your response was Pinterest. And then I played the game. Yeah, but I checked Pinterest. I couldn't find anything. And now what do you do?
Just give you mine.
Yeah, but what's in it? Because I can't have certain things in my pot roast recipe. So this is, right, this is, yeah, I'm gluten free. So,
Just putting bread and pot roast. Oh, the gravy, maybe. Cornstarch.
the gravy, I mean, I don't know about you, but I actually dredge my pot roast in flour before I pan sear it. Well, don't knock it till you try it.
I've
So,
seen it.
we initiate, it's my grandmother does. We initiate the recipe, or the recipe. We initiate the game, you give me a response, and then I play a game called Yeah But. And the Yeah But will go on for days. Any answer you give me, I'm gonna give you a reason of why that's not gonna work. Point. Okay? And this is real. I mean, this is, remember those strokes that we talked about? I get a positive stroke every time I get a point. I get to feel good about myself because I shut you down, right? So, the only way to win this game is not to play it. And there are many games. It's not just this one. There's a book called Games People Play, and it's got a whole list of them, okay? About all the fun little things that all of us crazy little humans do every day without even knowing it. The reason why I bring it up here is because you don't want to get caught up, especially you guys, you're problem solvers, right? You're trying to fix their situation. And the last thing you want to do is spend 10 minutes in a game of Yeah But. Anybody ever play this on the phone? Right?
I'm guilty. I'm sorry, God, you get every
We all are. We all do.
I know.
The thing is with me is that when I go to my friends for advice or for a solution, I'm guilty of playing that only because I want them to know, I really thought this out, I really need your help, and I've thought of everything, so if there is no solution to it, you're gonna tell me you've thought of everything, and I'm gonna be like, okay, that's it, we're dropping it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Very analytical,
Well, that's okay,
yeah.
right? Sometimes being analytical helps you.
But I'm not doing it to be a jerk,
Well, you know what? Here's the thing.
so.
It's my belief that no one, except for sociopaths, intentionally does things with a negative result in mind. Okay? I don't think that most people that initiate the game of Yeah But are doing it because they're like, I'm gonna get these guys. You know, like they don't. They set out in it because they really wanted an answer. And then you gave them one that they've already thought about, and so we do this. But the problem is that some of us think about every single eventuality, and so that we end up in long, long games of Yeah But.
Right, because I'm just thinking, shouldn't we be, if our members are giving it that much thought, shouldn't we be spending the time to try to help them? I mean,
We
reasonable.
want to give them help. What we don't want to do is chase our tails or
Right.
theirs, right? So one of the ways the only way to win this game is to not play it whatsoever, right? And so how we stay out of that game is we find out what you know already, right? So that's how I don't run into that situation, is I get you to tell me everything that you have already, all the research you've already done. What do you know so far? Right? Because I don't want to get pulled into that or any of the other games that are out there. Okay? So when it comes to understanding why they ask before you answer, that's the reason. So it's going to be what? What would be some techniques for understanding why they ask or before they answer?
Have you experienced this in the past?
Sure. Has this happened to you before? I said it to you earlier, right? Does this happen all the time when you hit your knee? Okay.
Trust us, it does.
Well, so here's the funny thing. So here's the funny thing. It's behavior patterns. We all have behavior patterns. So that's why when I run into someone and they spill a drink, my first question is, does that happen to you all the time? And it probably does. They probably spill stuff all the time. Or hey, you knock your knee off of stuff all the time. Well, I bet you have. We all have our little things that we do all the time. Okay? Behavior patterns. Everybody has them. So you were saying, I'm sorry, Zach.
Has this happened in the past?
Has this happened in the past? Right. Because what's that going to tell you?
If it's a recurring issue, and the answers that they've had in the past aren't the right ones, or they're not fixing the ultimate problem.
Okay.
And then we're going to figure out what answers they've already received, so that way we can try to figure out something new.
Because
The old answers didn't work, so we need the new ones.
we can do this all day.
Yeah, we can.
And it's so much fun. It really is. It's again.
Solution, the solution.
So, but you're 100% right. Like, what have you tried in the past? What else have you done? What results did you get? Because here's the thing: people will argue with your information all day long. All day long. I'm going to give you an answer. You're going to argue with me. Oh my God! But you know what they want to argue with? Their own information. So before I ask a question, right, or before I answer a question that they ask, I need to know what information they have in their heads. Because as soon as I find out what they already know, I can use that information so that I don't get into this big debate with them about what's actually going to happen or what's going to go on, right? So I can say, hey, what have you done in the past? Like, okay, well, listen, have you already taken any action on this? You know, or if they say, well, what happens when I do this? I'm like, well, you know, what do you think happens? Have you experienced this before? And then they can tell you the story that they're holding back here like a trump card that they're going to hit you with as soon as you give them the answer that doesn't jive with that, right? If you give them the answer that goes along with it, what do they say? Okay. Oh, does it happen to me? Does it happen to everybody? No, just you. Right? But no, it happened to me. Right? And it's like, yeah, no, I know, it's not unusual, it happens to everybody. Again, that's that whole okay, not okay thing. I love to make people, let them know it's not just you. I did this to you guys a couple minutes ago, right? It's not just you, it happens to everybody. Because then we don't just think it's us. Because that's what happens. And we go, not okay. Fair? So what are some other ways that we can understand this? Or what could we ask, or what could we say? Someone asks you a direct question, you're not answering it. What do you do? Because again, I don't want to answer.
Is this the only issue you're experiencing?
Is this the only answer? Or issue? What did you have?
Like I would say, well, let me ask you this, and like I'll kind of elaborate on it, and then we'll kind of go into more detail,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can kind of either get them off the track that they were on to keep asking you why or the yeah, but
I think it's great. I
Yeah.
love to tell stories.
mm,
I love to put things in a frame of reference for people. I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. Is it that you're experiencing this, and then you give them the answer that you might kind of give them anyway? No, it's definitely no. Okay, just checking. Didn't think it was. Right? That's one of my favorite things. Okay, right? It's again, I love to know what's going to happen before it happens. Right? So I'm going to kind of bring things into the future, do a little test with you, and then when you say no, I'm like, no, I didn't think so. No, let's try something else. Okay? And we can do that 3 or 4 or 5 times. And now what's happening is we're not getting into conflict. Right? We're not butting heads at that point in time. I'm just, like we were talking about before, I'm going to test something. If it works, fantastic. Let's keep going down that route. If it doesn't, let's pull it back a little bit. Let's try something else. Right? So one of my favorites is, and we talked about this in the ambassador training, is negative presumptive statements. Right? Okay, this probably isn't going to work for you. Okay, that's a negative presumptive statement. Right? It's always use the ice cream. Okay, you probably don't like ice cream, do you, Eric?
You're asking the wrong girl that.
Why is that?
Because if the temperature's over 70, I'm eating it every day, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, you know, I thought that might be the case, but I didn't want to be presumptuous. Right? So we can use these statements that throw things out there to say, hey, you probably don't like this, or you're probably not thinking this, or this probably wouldn't work for you in that situation, would it? Again, it's a way to test a statement out. Give it a test drive before you buy the car. And then if they say no, they're not actually rejecting you, they're not actually rejecting your statement. They're actually validating what you just said. So if I said to you, hey, you probably don't like ice cream, do you, Eric? And you're like, no, I hate this stuff. I'm like, no, I didn't think you did. I just had a feeling. Not for you. Right? Just like earlier when I said, I get the feeling that you're probably pretty assertive.
And if you had said, no, I'm not assertive, I'm like, well, you're being it right now. Right? So it's just a way to always have an out, right? To be flexible, to not get trapped into what people want to do. Because again, people love to play these games, right? We get emotional excitement, and many of us don't lead the most exciting lives. So we look for ways to get excitement, and conflict is one of them. And it can be conflict with anybody. It can be conflict with you, it can be conflict with our close people that are close to us, or it can just be you guys on the phone because you had the unfortunate luck to answer the phone that day when they called and got to be their verbal punching bag. So, all right. So understanding why they ask before you answer, right? Understand. You can even say, well, why do you ask? Very simple. You know, is this going to happen? If I do this, is this going to take place? Why do you ask? And then they're going to tell you the story that goes with the question. Well, because it happened to my cousin Jimmy over at that other place. I'm like, well, no, if that's that other place, that's not us. That's not how we do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gives you, there's a reason why they're asking. Everybody asks a question for a reason. So if you're on the phone and someone asks you a question, there's something else going on. And before you answer, find out what that is. Do you have fees attached to your bank? Well, why do you ask? Well, because I was over at so-and-so and they had all these fees. And well, you know, and then you can choose to answer the question, or you can ask more questions, which is my favorite. Well, is that a problem? Well, yeah, I don't like it. Okay, well, does that mean that it's over? Yes. Right. Well, then have a nice day. Right? And I didn't have to do anything but ask questions. The questions are like this magical thing that can solve almost any problem whatsoever. Right? Just continually asking questions. Right? Whether it's the and, because, which means, tell me more, or if it's well, why do you ask? Oh, that's probably not something that you're interested in, is it? Well, yes, I am. Oh, I thought maybe. Just wanted to check. Right? Is that fair? Okay. So, we're pretty much at the end of today, finishing 15 minutes early. I don't know if that's good or bad. I need to make you, go back to your desk or maybe check out early. But any questions? Next time, now I don't know if you guys are going to be with us next time. Did I hear that correctly?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So we're scheduling the next session. Next time we're going to have a little bit further talking about conflict resolution and problem solving. And then we're going to get into some of the specific phone calls and run through those and talk about and just kind of debrief the calls. What's happening? What could you do? What went right? What went wrong? Those kinds of things. So, fair?